Welcome to Ed's Not Dead. I'm Robbie Dodd. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. C.H. Siddons.
Hey, welcome back. It's only been, 8 months.
It hasn't been quite that long, but it's close. December and Mr. Peter Crable.
Hello, Robert.
All right. It's great to see you guys.
It's so good to meet you.
We really haven't seen much of each other since December, have we?
No, we haven't.
Have the three of us been together in person since December?
No. The whole point of the podcast was for us to get together and talk about education.
Correct.
But we're here, and as always, Ed's Not Dead is brought to you by Ed's Not Dead Media, full service educational media company focusing on leadership, instruction, and 21st century school form. The show still lives thanks to our loyal audience. I know that I can speak for both of you because we've shared this with each other, that we have had, and it's very nice, many people since December ask us about the show and whether it still is alive. So that's always kind of nice. And
it is
slightly embarrassing, but it's good.
And do you respond by saying, Ed's not dead?
Yeah, no, I should. That's a good one. I never thought of that. Yeah, we've had people asking about it. So we're back. This is certainly the most pathetic season we've had of our 6 seasons. So we will have finished the year having done how many episodes?
4 episodes.
4 episodes.
Did we do 4? I thought we did 3, but okay.
Yeah, I think this is the 4th.
Okay.
This is the 4th, right.
And I will say, episode 1, 2, and 3 of this season were pretty amazing episodes.
They were good. We got a lot of great feedback on those episodes.
We did. The Superintendent series was a big hit.
It was a big hit.
And we're just going to get stronger.
Yeah, we are. And this was season 6, Mr. Crable?
Yeah, season 6. Yep.
So do the math for me. I want to say that we started the summer of 16 or the summer of 17 or the summer of 15.
I think it was the summer of 16.
Summer of 16. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been around.
I don't think so.
17. No? It was 2017.
2017.
So either way, we've done a lot of great stuff. We're going to continue to do great stuff. We're still doing the podcast. We're still here.
The show's not going anywhere.
Correct.
And we're gonna have a banner year next year. We're gonna get started. Maybe we can do, if we can get our acts together, we can do a summer episode, or we're just gonna jump in and
we can do it. The problem was we had a very good strategy of every time we finished an episode, we would get like several episodes on the books.
Correct.
And scheduling episodes via text message is not a very effective strategy.
No, and we have to give credit where credit's due. Mr. Siddons was the one that always kept us on the calendar.
Yeah,
I tried.
This is true.
Yeah, and I'm looking at even the show notes are showing some wear.
We need to revitalize some stuff in the summer, just like teachers do in their practices. We're going to take a break and come back refreshed.
Update that Google Doc.
That's right.
Mr. Siddons, you're the most connected to the audience. Have you had people since December asking about us?
Yes, many times actually.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had several folks at school. My school ask me. I've had folks who are communicating on Twitter and Facebook reach out and ask when we're doing another episode. And I'm sure people will be excited that we are starting their summer with an episode of Ed's Not Dead to get them really jonesed for their time off.
All right. So it is June. This is a happy time, fellas. We are, I think the show, will this show drop this week, Mr. Crable? Hopefully. It's not going to be a highly complex show. It shouldn't require much editing. I haven't cussed yet.
That's good. Maybe Friday at the earliest.
Okay.
That would be best case scenario.
All right. So we will have just completed the last week of school when our loyal listeners hear this. It's a celebratory time for all of us, for students, parents, and educators. So summer's here. Let's talk about, before we get into my question to start the show off, Mr. Crable's completing his first year as a principal. Let's hear it from Mr. Crable. Yeah. He survived.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sitting over here yawning off camera.
He's got all his evaluations done, and He's had a successful year. How do you feel?
Good, tired. I texted Robbie maybe a month ago. I don't know the exact words, but it was something along the lines of, is there anything worse than May as a principal?
Bad.
It was after, all the events and all the night events and all the day events. And, like, it's May, so it's the end of the year, but it's like, no, it's really not.
No.
You still got 6 weeks left. Too early to start looking ahead.
May is exhausting.
Yeah.
Just in the number of nights being out and all the picnics and celebrations. It's all great stuff, but it's
exhausting. It's a lot of socializing.
Yes,
which again, like nothing wrong with that, but it's just at least for me, I find it very tiring.
Yeah, we know how much you love socializing.
Yeah.
Right. And Mr. Siddons, another year as an administrator.
That's right.
You had a good year.
Yeah, it was good.
Learned a lot.
I feel like every day I learned something new. No, it's been good. My 7th graders are amazing people, and I really enjoy them. They are complex and challenging in a lot of ways, but just I'm excited to see what 8th grade brings for them.
So Casey, in many ways, is the consummate middle child. Like in his family, his personality, etc.
Sure.
So he has middle child 7th graders this year. So my question: will he be able to adapt as they do to kind of being the top dogs?
They are
Cool.
very, very sick of me.
Are they?
Oh yes, and you can imagine that I adhere to all school expectations through the end of the year, and they're very annoyed by that.
That is the most unsurprising thing.
And like, and I have to like.
Have you been channeling your inner Uncle Jeff Edgar with them?
Oh yes, because like I have to think for a minute, be like, do I tell them that they have to put their backpacks away? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to tell them. Yes, I am. I am going to tell them because, damn it. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I got so many side eyes today. So many.
Oh,
that's good.
It's like the baton death march.
It is. They're just. I might not have any tires by Friday on my car.
They're going to be 14-year-olds next year. Whoa!
I know it's crazy.
8th graders are. I have one living 2 floors above me. They're 14-year-olds are. I think 14 might be the most challenging age K to 12 in public education.
Really?
See, I guess right now I was thinking 7th grade is, but maybe 8th grade is worse.
Why 8th grade?
I don't know. I think 8th graders they're a little bit, they're in a major holding pattern.
They're too cool for school.
They're very, very adolescent. I just consider it kind of like it is like the punctuated equilibrium time of adolescence. I feel like it doesn't take long, 15 to 16, where they start to lose some of the adolescent kinds of trappings.
Yeah.
14, you're just right in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And 12-year-olds are early adolescents.
Yeah.
14-year-olds are just,
it's really wild to see how 7th graders begin and how they end, because like at the most of 6th grade, they're like, most of them are fine to talk with you. Beginning of 7th grade, they're still like, having good conversations as young kids. And by the end of 7th grade, they're just like, I have no time for you. Can we be done with this meeting?
Yeah.
Because I'm done.
No,
I'm still giving a speech. Thank you.
I'm still lecturing you. So you need to listen.
My speech isn't over yet. Yeah.
So I was telling a student, I was like, so the answers generally I like are yeses or nos. So I need you to give me, I need you to give me some definitives. I need you to give me a yes or no. And there is a correct answer.
I just know that Mr. Crable and I, for our listeners that don't know, we belong to the same summer pool. And when my dear son and his cohort of 14-year-old friends that summer the pool barely survived that summer of that half a dozen 14-year-old boys. I mean, it's just, it can be a difficult age.
I was talking to a colleague who had a sleepover, seventh grade son, and had maybe 6 boys sleep over. They went to a movie beforehand. I was just like, I could think of nothing worse.
Yeah. You're going to be doing it. You've got 2 boys.
My parents never allowed sleepovers, like big sleepovers. And I will tell you, I was very resentful of that. But as a parent now, like, that will never happen.
Yeah.
They will go somewhere else to have a sleepover to some unsuspecting parent.
She's like, they broke this, they broke that.
They were up till 4.
Yep. Yeah. I was like, what time do they go to bed? She said 3:30. Yeah. I was like, oh.
My boy Aaron, he used to have 15 kids at his house every August, and we'd have the best sleepover ever, filled with shenanigans.
All right, so we have 2 things to talk about. We're going to get to an op-ed in the Washington Post by conservative columnist Hugh Hewitt that is going to rile some people up, because we're going to talk about smartphones. Who calls them smartphones, really?
Yeah.
Isn't that what they're called?
Okay, boomer.
Okay. These smartphones.
These smart technologists.
But before we get into Hugh Hewitt's article, I have one question for you, and then Crable, we can either go to a break after this and come back and talk about Hugh's article, or we can just keep talking until we run out of things to talk about.
We'll keep going, because a break would require more editing on my part. So
we're going to skip that, and then we're just going to get to the end and talk about our summer plans, and that'll be the show.
Yeah.
All right. Are we officially beyond the worst impacts of the pandemic in education?
Yes.
Crable goes yes. What do you say?
A definitive yes.
Okay, and I'm going to come to you for a why in a second, but Mr. Siddons, what do you have to say?
I'd say no. That's a hard no.
All right, so that's a hard no. We have a hard yes. Crabes, why the hard yes?
I mean, where we live, this is the completion of 2 full years back at school, with another, let's just call it half a year, even though it was a little bit less than that. You have many other districts who were back before that. I know some were especially late in returning. So let's just call it 2 to 3 years back to normal. I'm not sure how long you can kind of hold on to the pandemic as a reason for anything. I mean, at what point does it stop? Where you're like, the pandemic. Are there issues? Yes. Were there issues before the pandemic? Of course. Were they very similar issues? I would argue yes. I work in a middle school. In some maybe smaller, subtle ways, middle schoolers are different, but the basic gist of who they are is different. You might want to argue that our society has changed in ways, which was a whole nother discussion, I think. But I think in general, to look back and say that we're still dealing with effects of the pandemic or anything like that, I think we're just back to, I don't want to say business as usual, but I think we're back to school in a much more recognizable sense of how it was prior to the pandemic.
That was a great answer, Mr. Crable. Can you repeat the question?
That means he's zoned out halfway through the answer.
And the operative word in the question, Mr. Siddons, was worst. Are we officially beyond the worst impacts of the pandemic?
I'm not going to change my answer, because that would require me to go from a no to a yes. And I'm just not willing to do that. But I agree with Crable. In terms of certainly the worst of it, we can't keep blaming things on the pandemic, but I think a lot about like the social emotional impacts on kids. And I feel like that stuff is going to take a very long time to truly unravel for kids. I don't know that I don't even know if we know right now how bad it is in a lot of kids, but I think teaching has changed dramatically. I don't think we've reset to what it was like before the pandemic. I think it's a lot more hands off. I think it's a lot more reliant on technology in ways that I don't think, by and large, school teachers and administrators really understand or have had the time to really like drill down and understand. I just don't know that we're there. So
I would say,
I don't know if I have an opinion. Go ahead, Graves.
So on the mental health aspect, I think there's definitely some truth to that for sure. However, as we're going to discuss in the next segment here about smartphones, I would put a lot of the onus on I said smartphones. I apologize.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, it is. But I would say that's part of the equation as well. But then on the flip side, what I'm personally seeing with no data to support this kind of from a macro level, though, is more support from schools with therapists, psychologists, social workers, et cetera, to help deal with some of the fallout. Is it enough? No.
Sure.
But I think it's much more at the forefront of like what kids need. So I don't think we're going to be backsliding more than we already have. I think, as Robbie said, through the worst of it, I think the worst of it was coming back last year and being hit with a tsunami of kid needs.
Sure.
I don't see it getting anywhere close to that.
Yeah,
again.
That's fair.
And then I do also happen to agree with you in regards to teaching changing in primarily in the sense of, as you said, the reliance, what I would say the over-reliance on technology as the medium to deliver all instructional materials, and that is the home of, the vast majority of instructional materials as well. And I also don't think that is a positive change.
Yeah.
I would say, because I'm a bit of a Luddite as well, that it's once again the false hope of technology promising something to make life better and really not changing it whatsoever, and just changing the exact same thing that was done before, but using a device that somebody profits off of to do it. Yeah.
And
so you mean like the technology that we're using right now to do a podcast that makes us happy?
and very similar to that, yes.
And makes other people happy, we think.
I'm referring to like using the Google suite of Office or whatever to distribute all materials.
Got it.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to see. I think I just think there's a lot that we haven't had time or space to, I hate to use the word unpack, but help teachers unpack like how things used to be in education. And I don't know if that's more of me harking back to when I was in the classroom and feeling nostalgic for that versus what I think kids actually need in the classroom. So
I'm gonna play DA all through this show. I think tonight. I think that's gonna be my role.
I think so.
Is staring at a Chromebook, typing in a graphic organizer, or answering questions on a Chromebook any worse than the worksheets we hated in 2015? Is it any worse than the practice books that kids would mindlessly write answers in?
No, but what I guess it's just a generalization, Crable. I don't know if you're seeing this as well.
Or packets? Is a Chromebook worse than a packet?
No, of course not. It's just a more arguably environmentally friendly version, especially for trees. Maybe not for the environment at large, but it's just a different way of presenting. Poor teaching, it can be done on a Chromebook or with worksheets. So I think this is a generalization, but using Chromebooks so pervasively has put up an invisible wall between child and teacher that used to not be there. And it's the allowance for you to just kind of wing it and just put stuff on Chromebooks and not really be more thoughtful about what you're putting in front of kids and how they're going to interact, and really dive deep into like, how are kids going to learn what I expect them to learn? I think that's missing.
Well, it does get to my, not that I coined this phrase, maybe I did, but it does get to my high involvement, low.
I have that written on a big sticky note in my office on my bookshelf. I will send a picture of it to you tomorrow.
That I'm flattered.
Yeah.
I guess I'll try to answer it. I think I'm going to totally waffle. I agree with Crable. I think the kids are acculturated kind of back to school in a productive way. They know schools are running every day. Kids are coming. Attendance is still probably a question, I would think.
Yeah.
I think a lot of educators would say attendance is still an echo of the pandemic. Probably a pretty loud echo. But I think you're right. I think the hidden impacts, potentially hidden, some manifest of mental health impacts are there. I guess the thing that I'm not sure whether we're through the worst of it is I can't put my finger yet on the learning loss piece.
Yeah.
I suspect that if you looked at data across the nation, just let's take, you guys are middle school experts. My guess is if you looked at middle school math scores, they're probably the lowest they've been ever. So that's not good. But then again, I say to myself, well, to your point, Crable, some of these, I mean, we're educators. These are the things we're supposed to do. If kids are behind, if they struggle, we're supposed to teach them and catch them up.
Yep.
And there were kids that were behind and struggled pre-pandemic. So there's just more now. And I have seen some positive signs that the school systems have tried to be more creative, and nimble at trying to kind of intervene and help students get caught up. So I guess I guess I would fall on the side of that we're through the worst. I made a point when I spoke to seniors this year at graduation. I felt like I told them that, a symptom of getting old like me is that you start to think about younger generations as lacking in some way. And I told the kids that I knew this year that they weren't, that they're as talented, creative, courageous, smart as any of their forebears. And because I don't like this theme of the coming out of the pandemic of the kids are somehow less than.
Right.
They've been impacted in this way that they're never going to be the same. I don't know. I mean, they don't have to storm the beach at Normandy. Right? There's a lot of, they don't have to go to Vietnam. A lot of generations have had these kinds of things. So I think they're going to be fine. That's my.
It's just going to be a foundational aspect of their young adulthood and adulthood, really.
Yeah, it'll be a marker in their development.
Yeah.
Life.
You look at the people that came out of the flu pandemic in the early 1900s, and like it took 3 to 5 years to really even begin to come back to normal, and they didn't have online school, so they just, you kind of have to keep moving. And your point about teaching where kids are is so profound. It's like we can't change what they're bringing to us,
right?
So we have to meet them where they are, and that requires a skilled teacher and a responsive school, and it requires constant monitoring, and it's just what good teaching is.
That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be able to do that. All right, so let's satisfy Mr. Crable's Luddite tendencies, and let's talk about Hugh Hewitt's piece in the Washington Post, which was gifted to me. Oh no, it froze me out again. No, here it is.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Siddons, for sending me the gift of this article. So anybody that doesn't know Hugh Hewitt, he is I would say, very conservative columnist, very good writer, though. This was from June 9th in the Washington Post. Why we should ban smartphones in schools. So he quotes, who is this guy, Crable? He's a social psychologist, Jonathan Haidt.
Yep.
Who recently published an article, Get Phones Out of Schools Now, that was in The Atlantic. Haidt writes, the case for phone-free schools is much stronger now. Evidence has lately become clear that phones are addling. I love that. That's such an old person word. Addling young minds, and that there is a causal link between their use and skyrocketing mental health issues. among the young. It goes on to say that, so the time is right for parents and educators to ask, should we make the school day phone free? Would that reduce rates of depression, anxiety, and self-harm? Would it improve educational outcomes? And the answer in this is, I believe that the answer to all of these questions is yes. Then he, true to form, he takes shots at the educational bureaucracy. It wouldn't be.
He does a
Feckless
COVID
school rules.
Yeah.
He does a COVID school shutdown.
Yeah.
Swipe.
Don't you love words like addling and feckless?
Sounds like a Chester Finn quote.
That does sound a little Chester Finnish. So all children deserve schools that will help them learn, cultivate deep friendships, and develop into mentally healthy young adults. So the point here is phones in schools are really prohibiting or keeping kids from becoming that. Where do you guys stand on smartphone free schools?
Oh man.
Well,
Ready?
Where I stand.
You get to go first this time, Mr. Sids.
I mean, I think it's no question. I was telling a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, about this article. We were talking about it, and I literally do not agree with Hugh Hewitt. I probably about anything on this earth. And when I saw this article, I was like, oh, heck yeah, I'm on board. So sorry about the police that are driving through my neighborhood, but I'm going to let Crable pick up here.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple points that aside from just the anti-phone hysteria, which I will willfully admit that I've become a part of, and I don't even like read that much about it. I've somehow managed to radicalize myself about this issue. I'm not really sure how that's possible.
That's pretty, I want to know more about that.
I don't know. Yeah, just deep thought radicalization.
Okay, all right.
But I do think there's a couple studies out there that would point in the favor of doing something. One is the ever-increasing body that shows the link between cell phones, specifically social media usage, and teen depression and anxiety. So going back to our previous discussion in teen depression and anxiety, some of that certainly happens as a result of the pandemic, just worry about what was going to happen. But then I also think it's factually correct to say that the use of cell phones in social media usage amongst teens is directly related and directly causes those increased levels of anxiety and depression. So not having equipment that causes that in school, I'm all for that. They also referenced a study, which I did happen to see, where it talked about the effect of smartphones on your ability to concentrate. And so what this study measured was, we think about smartphones in your hand, right? And you take them out of your pocket and you check the time and you open it for no reason. You check your email compulsively, whatever you do with it. This found that having your smartphone in the same room as you, even if you're not using it, even if it's not on your body, if it's across the room from you, it distracts your attention in the same way as if you were using it. So these devices are very powerful. They're very alluring, and I'm not immune to that either. But with our teens and our above teens or whatever in classes and in schools, they're definitely distracting even if they're not using them. So I think that's something to take into account. Last point I'll make has to do with kids' social media usage. I should have done a little bit more research to find the study for you guys, but there was a study that came out recently that asked students to self-report on their social media usage and how often they were on a variety of social media platforms. And it was essentially a Likert scale of all the time down to like not at all. So two things came out of that. One, young kids don't use Facebook. Two, the other thing, more importantly, that came out is upwards of like 7 to 12% are on social media sites constantly. And so this involves outside of school, this involves in school, this involves everything, all the time. So I think that's a problem. Now, the last thing I'll say, I see that Casey's moved inside, so he won't be blared out by the siren. I'm not so naive to think that cell phones are the reason for whatever, for fill in the blank. Even without cell phones, like kids are going to be distracted. Kids are going to kind of do all those things. I just am of the mind that it's unnecessary and it's an unnecessary distraction that is not only not helping, but actively harming our kids. And so I'm just not in favor of like promoting them or really allowing them at all in the school, knowing the adverse effects that they have on teens.
Mm-hmm. I'm 100% on board on that. I feel like to kind of add a little bit to that, it's like there's so much that we don't know. I mean, we have a lot of studies that say that it's directly contributing to depression, anxiety, and harm in kids. But like, we're basically, the cell phone companies and the manufacturers of smartphones are basically creating devices that either they certainly know what it's doing to kids and attention and adults alike, but it's not something that is going to be a very healthy contributor to our schools. I mean, there's nothing. I would say like 60 to 70% of behavior issues that I experience on a given week stem from some social media interaction that kids had outside of school. And it just doesn't seem like it's the pros to me don't outweigh the cons.
But if it's a social media interaction or problem outside of school, what are we going to do about that?
I mean, it's just like every other societal ill. I mean, there's things that happen where kids get bullied or picked on, or things happen on the ball field or whatever outside of school. And there are impacts that we have to deal with. But like, I think Crable,
that's a parenting problem.
Right. I mean, but what I'm saying is Crable's point about if we knowing what we know about the impact of smartphones on attention, on the mental health and well-being of kids, why wouldn't we not allow them, basically?
Why wouldn't we
ban them from school? Sorry. Yes, that was a double negative.
I don't know. Something about it doesn't sit right with me. I can't figure it out.
Well, maybe this will help you. So
that sounded incredibly patronizing.
No, it was a segue of something I was trying to find out a way to bring up, because I just heard on the radio that Florida, starting I believe this upcoming school year, is doing just this. Is that DeSantis signed a law maybe a month ago or whatever, banning cell phones in schools. And so I don't know if this is where you're coming from, but there's definitely like a little something big brothery about it. And to your point, I think that you were getting at, Robbie, is that, okay, you can ban the cell phones in school. They're not going to magically disappear outside of school. And the issues that are potentially occurring, via social media or cell phones at large don't magically disappear just because you get rid of cell phones in schools specifically.
Right.
I do everything that you guys have said. I mean, I am troubled by one. Maybe I'm overly focusing on one word, but for surely the bans would raise questions about the hidden harms. I get stuck on that a little bit, because why is Hugh Hewitt saying the harms are hidden? You're saying they're not. You're saying they're manifesting themselves. Studies are saying they're manifesting themselves in various ways.
Well, I would say they're hidden because the social media companies are not publicly availing themselves of like sharing their algorithms and sharing the information that we know is harming kids. Like the study that Wall Street Journal did, they did a big expose, I think maybe a year and a half ago, about Instagram specifically and how it impacts specifically females and young adolescent females in terms of how they view their body and body image, and basically how it has led to a tremendous rise in self-harm in girls specifically, and body image issues. And I just, the phones are specifically designed to hack your brain, and we see that with adults walking down the street, with just being in a line somewhere or in a meeting, and people are just checking their phones habitually. And I just think the damage is just, it's not worth it. One of the things he says in the article is, all children deserve schools that will help them learn, cultivate deep friendships, and develop into mentally healthy young adults. I think as schools, it's incumbent upon us to create as much as possible an environment that allows kids to learn, to create those friendships, and develop into healthy young adults in every single way that we can. And if that means that we don't allow cell phones, I think I think that's a small price to pay for making sure that we're doing the best we can for kids.
So then they're not allowed to use a cell phone all through the day, and then what do they do when they go home?
Well, I mean, it's just
they just binge. Is that what they do?
That's not well. I think
Not
that's
my problem.
Well, no, I mean, like we don't make that.
I'm saying this is a legitimate question.
Well, are you gonna? Well, as a high school principal, are you gonna, when marijuana is legalized on July 1? For those students who are 18 and older at your school, are we going to say that they can smoke marijuana and come to school? Is that something that we would allow in our building?
No.
Okay. So
I don't know where you're going with this. Smoking weed and looking at a cell phone are not comparable.
I disagree in terms
drugs,
of like,
man.
if you look at if you look at the addictive qualities of cell phones and how people are addicted to them, I think there is a very, very good correlation between illicit drug use and addiction in terms of cell phone use.
So let me ask you this then. Let's do a little test.
Oh, here we go. A test.
Okay. What would impact? So when you're in college, Casey, and you're stoned or you have a phone sitting next to you.
Yeah.
In which way would you have been more effective studying?
I think that's a terrible analogy.
Would you be able to study when you were high? No, you wouldn't. I'll answer the question for you. Can you study with a phone sitting next to you? Yes, you can.
No, there's not. There's
you can do both ineffectively. How about that?
That is correct.
No,
you cannot. Even having a phone, Crable was just talking about it. They just came out with studies recently that was saying that even just having a phone next to you, even if it's not turned up and you can't see it and all the notifications are on, you're still checking it because you're addicted to it.
Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I go in classrooms all the time where I see phones in pocket holders on the wall, and I see kids engaged in rigorous learning. And they're not being tortured by the phone 15 feet away from them.
You can't see in their brains, man.
Those are the hidden dangers.
The hidden dangers.
I
kind of like this.
You still didn't answer my question.
He's not going to. But I kind of like this argument about the cell phone as a drug. Although we're joking about it, the prefrontal cortex in the pleasure centers of the brain, in the ways in which social media and phones activate those. It's kind of a joke, but it's also like, maybe.
I completely agree with that. I can't argue with any. I mean, I'm as guilty as anybody. Standing in line at CVS today to get a prescription, I literally had to control myself from getting my phone out of my pocket multiple times to look at it. It is a humongous distractor. I'm just not sure. I mean, I don't know. I was half joking, but I do think a question like, what do kids do when they go home? I wonder if there's a limit to you guys both know I tend to stay away from all or nothing resolutions in education. I'm not an extremist, and I see banning smartphones from schools as extreme.
I think in terms of just like the extremist view, I can see where you're coming from with that, but like, I think it's not the wrong question about what do they do at home. I just feel like it's yet another thing that schools that are being placed on the shoulders of teachers and administrators in schools that we're not really suited to figure out.
100% agree. I agree, but I'm not sure an extreme response to an extreme problem. I mean, so what do you do with
there's an argument to be made, and I don't necessarily agree with it, that schools need to allow cell phone use in some capacity because we need to teach kids how to use them responsibly.
Are we going to tell?
Not our job.
Are we going to tell?
That I agree. That's not our job.
Are we going to tell teachers that they can't stand, that they're not allowed to, they're not permitted to stand in front of 17-year-olds in their classroom and they can look at their phone, but the 17-year-olds have to sit there and white knuckle it?
I think,
is
I
that
think
what we're going to do?
I think adults on their cell phones during instruction is not something that should be done.
Oh, so we're going to tell them they can't take out their phones also.
I think it's
I think we should do an EMP over the school. And just
I think
destroy all the electronics.
Unless it's an emergency, I think being on, at least, and this could just be how I was brought up as an educator, but like being on your cell phone while you're supposed to be teaching kids and you're scrolling through Facebook and Instagram and getting ready to post on TikTok. I think that's not right.
The other
Frida's in fourth grade. She's sick. The elementary school calls you.
Yeah.
And now they have to call the main office and they're going to call into your classroom. Mr. Siddons, you have to come down to take a phone call.
Yeah.
Like it used to be in the old days. That's how you want it. Okay.
Correct.
The good old days, Robbie. Come on.
I think if you're expected to be teaching children and you're supposed to be paying attention to what they're doing, learning, and thinking about throughout that entire period, I don't know how you can do that if you're also on your phone texting.
What about safety? What about safety and security?
I was just about to say. The thing that you would run into, because
absolutely,
Hugh Hewitt's like, why doesn't the education department just mandate this and tie funding to it? The number of parents, and this is not said disparagingly, but the number of parents that want their kids to have cell phones in the case of an emergency, in some cases probably legitimately, in some cases maybe not legitimately, I don't know, but they would lose their minds.
So now, so I mean, let's be honest.
So we're not making decisions based on the best interest of how kids learn and how they actually.
We're making decisions on parent rights, Casey. That's what we're making decisions on.
But we also have issues like senseless, horrific violence in schools,
which are legitimate.
But to say that smartphones are going to solve that, is
people use smartphones to call 911.
I know, but every classroom that I've been in has a phone in it.
Okay. All right. I think you got the last word. Every classroom
you're just like, okay. That's the Josh.
And that's the end of that segment.
That's the Josh Dunbar way of winning every argument that we used to have. Where he would be like, "Okay, Jeremy, you're right," and it would get him so fired up. It was so funny.
I was partially just playing DA on this. I honestly though don't know where
it's worth exploring.
I don't know
where I
discussion.
stand on it.
I think Robbie, you're in a high school. I saw a little bit of it. I think high schools are just in a different world in terms of dealing with it. Middle school, we can still have some onus over restricting it, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to it. I just think it's not great.
All right, let's the other thing I can't square is that 2 out of the 3 of us agree with Hugh Hewitt. So both of you have to live with that, not me.
I've made my bed.
I saw the thing about Florida and DeSantis, and I was like, well, look at that. There's always common ground to be found.
Look at you, Joe Biden.
Oh, no cell phones. Don't say gay. I mean, it's a great state.
I got a list of books to ban. Come on.
All right. We are now at if anybody can tell, this is the 3rd segment of the show.
Only there was music to delineate the segments.
That's right.
I have to read our sponsor. As always, Ed's Not Dead is brought to you by Ed's Not Dead Media, full service educational media company focusing on leadership, instruction, and 21st century school reform. We didn't miss a beat, fellas. We got right back into it. Me and Casey arguing, Crable intellectualizing things to the nth degree. It's all
a touch of patronizing Robbie.
It's always nice to see all of it.
I was happy we got to hear a Casey like, will you let me speak? Will you just let me finish? If you just let me speak, I can say it.
I didn't get that far.
Yeah, you were close though.
It's because we didn't have a break.
Yeah, it was exhausting.
All right, let's talk about the summer. It's mid-June. Where are you two going? What are you doing? Mr. Crable, Mr. Siddons, I don't know if you know this. Mr. Crable is now officially he's moved up the swim club volunteer totem pole, and
What does
he has
that mean?
he has a polo shirt
Oh,
that he
no.
gets to wear because he's a starter. But you don't get to use a gun anymore.
No, it's
You
just
push.
tone.
It's just a beep, right?
Do you get discount on your pool fees?
No. And then you know how much that stupid shirt was?
Not worth it.
It was
How
like
much was that?
$33.
Oh my
I
god!
was so bitter.
Is it Under Armour?
I was like, no, it was like it was like the wicking, but it was like Gildan, you know.
Gildon. I call him Gildon.
Gildon. Yeah, I was not super happy about that. So no, it actually cost me money to do.
So you were
volunteer
voluntold, and you had to pay for it.
That's correct. Yeah.
So apparently my wife is doing automation, which is very fancy. I guess that's just, what do they do in automation, Crable? Put the times in and stuff.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So-
verify.
So my wife likes that role because she gets to sit up on the balcony and be away from all the other humans at the pool during the swim meet.
Yeah.
And she can just privately put in data. But Mr. Crable's wife joined her on Saturday morning at the automation table.
Oh,
And Mr. Crable's wife was very proud as she watched Mr. Crable traverse the deck in his polo. She was
Big
like,
big
look
man
at
on
him in
deck.
his polo.
That's right. Yeah. A lot of stares, you know, a lot of jealousy coming from the people, but just
yeah.
a job.
A lot of love. Were you
telling people what to do and like, hey,
yelled at some kids if they weren't still enough, you know.
Can't bring glass in here.
Yeah. No, the big in the starter world, which I've never done before, but had to do a 2-hour training to go do. Yeah. The big news was, you know, typically one would think of, what do you say when you want kids to get in their starting stance? What would the starter say?
Okay.
You're
asking.
It's a question. Yeah.
Okay. Get to your starting block.
No, that's a horrible.
Okay,
Robbie knows what they say. What do you say?
Okay.
Take your marks. Take your mark. Sorry.
Oh,
Take your mark.
Get
The
set.
big one is now. It's no longer take your mark.
Oh, what is it?
It is take your marks.
Take your marks.
Oh, plural.
Yeah, plural. Now we're telling everybody to take their marks. Yeah,
their words are important, Mr.
Words
We're not just
words
talking about
meaning.
one person.
Yeah. So that was the big scuttle.
Well, I'm proud of you because I think you've moved into that next phase of parenthood where you're highly involved. It's terrible.
When do you get to ease out?
When you're about my age, 54.
That's a long way away.
Crable, you have a solid decade ahead.
Decade?
Yeah, it's 10 years.
That's a lot.
But it goes by really fast. I mean,
Right.
you know, Johnny's
That's
19. It was like 9 to 19. How old's Owen?
9.
There you go.
Oh, that's why.
I did the math.
Seems like a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a long time. You're going to be old. So where are we going this summer, Mr. Siddons? You got any?
I'm flying to Vancouver.
Oh, Vancouver, eh?
Yeah, I'm going up there then.
Oh, you talk to them hosers.
The whole fam?
No, just me.
Just you?
I got permission to go.
Who are you going with?
Are you lying? I can't tell if you're lying or not.
What?
My buddy who lives in Canada is going to be out in Vancouver.
Your buddy from Ottawa?
No, he's from Saskatoon.
Oh, okay.
And then
Did you meet him on the Goethe trip?
I did. And then another guy I met on the Goethe trip, he lives in Seattle, so I'm going to take a bus or something down there.
When are you going to Seattle?
August 4th.
Broseph.
How long is this hall pass?
It's like a week.
What? Man. Okay.
Well,
that is tremendous.
After that.
I know. You want to come?
Yeah, dude, invite me.
Yeah, come on out.
All right.
When do you leave?
No, seriously, you should come.
What are you doing in Vancouver?
Am I not invited? I'm over here.
I have no idea.
You gotta invite yourself.
Sitting next to you on a plane, Dr. Dodd, might be my nightmare. I don't know what it would be like. I know that you would be the worst plane companion.
That's unfair.
When was the last time you were on a plane? Robbie, when was the last time you were on a plane?
He flew down to the islands down there.
January.
Before that.
Pre-TSA. No, he went to Ireland.
That was like 2012.
That was 2006. You know what?
Was that the last time?
Don't denigrate me.
What was the last time before that?
The fall of 20.
Okay.
Right before the pandemic, I went to San Francisco for a conference.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I presented, remember?
That's right.
Era.
It was not era.
Era.
Making stuff up. All right, you've got me out. So when are you going, Mr.? I hold on. Let's get back to this. Why I would be annoying on a plane. What do you base that on?
Well, I just feel like you'd be uncomfortable. I feel like you'd be uncomfortable the whole time. You're not a good flyer, I suspect.
Okay.
Are you a good flyer?
I don't think I've ever really thought about it. I don't think I'm bad. I'm a big reader, so I just kind of read. I just got to read the whole time.
You know what? I take it back. In the section for this podcast of apologies and
takebacks and apologies,
I take it back. I take it back. I was making assumptions, and that was wrong.
Disparaging for no reason.
I'm actually pretty chill on vacations.
That's good.
I'm not. I can definitely relax, and I will say that I'm fine on planes. The getting on and the getting off, though, I don't love airports. They stress me. They do stress me out a little bit.
The most stressful thing for me is security. I
don't like that either.
It gets me up to 11, and I'm just not having it. Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, I am actually going back to that same spot in the Bahamas the last week of July. The four of us are going, and I'm gonna.
That's great.
I'm gonna go out with Bonefish Slick again and go bone fishing on the mangrove flats and in the Exumas. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then the last week of June, I might see a shark. The last week of June, I'm going to do you guys won't see me. I'm going to take off and do my solo fishing thing. Just drive into the mountains. I'll probably be out in West Virginia, Mr. Sid.
Nice. That'll be great.
Out there in the smoke hole.
That's right.
Yep. Mr. Krabs, where are you guys going? You going down to Topsail?
Yep. Going down there next week. Yeah, less than a week away.
You're doing the right out of school trip.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. And then actually in August, we too are going to the Pacific Northwest. I was like, wait, when are you going? So we are going to overlap, Mr. Sidai.
I'm leaving on August 1. Sidai.
Yeah. We are coming out on August 2nd.
Sidians.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so we're flying in. We're driving down to Olympic for a couple days.
Nice.
Sweet. Cruising around there.
I'll be in Seattle by August 4th or 5th.
I won't be there. I will be on the San Juan Islands.
Oh,
yeah.
I saw those on the map, and I was curious as to why they're called the San Juan Islands. I need to do some research.
San Juan de Fuca.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
San Juan River. San Juan worm.
Something. De Fuca is something. I don't know what that is.
There's a very effective fly called the San Juan worm.
Oh, there you go. The good old San Juan de Fuca.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Anyway, so spend some days on this island and come back to Seattle. So
nice
touristing.
That's awesome.
So all five of you,
all five of us.
Any other friends, or you guys are just a solo fam trip?
No. Well, one of my best friends from college moved right before the pandemic. Moved out to Seattle.
Okay.
So been trying to kind of get out there, and then Jenna's half brother's brother, put that together. Also lives in Okay. They share a half brother, and he lives out there too. So we'll see him as well.
You gonna channel your inner Kurt Cobain and Pearl Jam, and you're gonna go to the cradle of grunge.
Yeah. You're
gonna visit the muddy banks of the Wishka.
Yeah, we're just gonna be tourists. So whatever we want to do.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Into it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
By the way, it was this month 30 years ago that my wife and I began dating again.
Woo!
Wow.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. 30 years ago, summer of 93.
Wow.
Yep. Crazy, huh?
Jeez.
And next year is my 30th year in public education, fellas.
Yep. Is there something you can do at 30 years? I don't remember.
I can retire this
time. I can't remember.
Do I seem old enough to retire? Be honest with me.
No,
be careful, but be honest.
No, you really don't.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Yeah. I know. Isn't that crazy that you can be have done a career of 30 years and still be relatively. You'll be how old when you have 30, Crable? Mid 50s.
Right about your age. I think
Right
we
about my
both
age.
kind of the same. Like a couple years after college, got into education.
That's same thing.
So 54, I think.
Yep. Okay. So you're Siddons.
I'll be 53.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
Spring chicken.
All right. That sounds great. So you'll be out in the Pacific Northwest. You're going to Canada. I'm going to the Bahamas. It's going to be a great summer.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Maybe we can get a show in July. A surprise
Let's
episode.
try to do that. Let's do that.
Do it.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Okay. And then we're going to have a banner year next year. We don't have a game, do we, Mr. Siddons?
No, we can save it for the next time. We just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we're still doing the pod and we're still the hottest education podcast on the earth.
We are. I do want to give a shout out to Mr. Crable. Was it the Ed's Not Dead email that our friend, loyal listener Luba emailed you on about talking about reading instruction?
Yes, our contact form actually works.
Oh, I wondered about that. So
we get a decent amount of spam on it that I don't tell you guys about.
It's probably gross.
No, it's, I mean, to be honest, it's all like education related, but it's just people that are,
it's like PIO emails.
They have like a publicist or whatever that just gets all education related things and just spams us. Yeah. Okay. To try and get on, various podcasts or magazines or whatever the case may be.
Well, loyal listener Luba M wants us. She has been listening since the very beginning of the show, 6 seasons. She even subjects her children and husband to the show. She wants us to talk about theories of reading instruction and how kids learn to read. And she talked a little bit in her email. She's of Serbian descent. She talked about learning to read in Serbia and how it was much more straightforward in her language. So Luba,
that's
yes,
awesome.
we will next season talk about reading. None of us have the we need
a guest.
Yeah, we need a guest.
Help explain it to us.
We do.
Mr. Siddons, find us
an expert, Casey.
All right, I'm working on it. I'm already working on it.
All right.
Fun fact before we go here about the Ed's Not Dead website that I'm sure neither of you noticed. There was a brief period of time where it was no longer functioning because somebody did not pay the dues.
Oh, geez, dude.
Somebody had. In fact, it was so bad that I lost the domain name completely.
Oh my god! Jeez,
I had to go through a whole thing and like.
Do we owe you any money?
Yeah, definitely.
You owe me money too for
like
the lib
stuff. Yeah.
I saw that expression you just made. Side
when you don't reply to the emails that they send you warning you about it, you can't just buy your domain name back. They put it into a public auction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they repossess it and then they auction it
a
off.
Premium to get it back.
Okay.
Damn. All right.
Savage.
Well, good. I was wondering the last time I was on it, it was functioning. So I guess I missed the blackout.
The Overton window.
I was wondering whether we need to update our pictures on there.
I think so.
I think it's that time.
We look too young.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah.
I think we should hook up with that
unvarnished
photographer and get some new pics.
No suits.
No suits. Go casual. All right. As always, Ed's Not Dead is brought to you by Ed's Not Dead Media, full service educational media company focusing on leadership, instruction, and 21st century school reform. You can find us at the website the Crable just paid the fee on, edsnotdead.com, and of course on Twitter at Ed's Not Dead PC. We'll be tweeting about this show, and please spread the word about Ed's Not Dead. We'll be back and better than ever next season. It's a rough year this year, but fellas, it's always a pleasure. We'll drop a show in July, and we'll see each other soon.
All right.
For Casey and Peter, thanks for joining us. Talk to you soon.